And here at the center, we learn and practice the science of mind, philosophy, and this is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. I invite you to go to our website, cslboston.org, to find out more about this phenomenal spiritual family here and this great philosophy called the science of mind, and see how our community can serve you, and also how you can support our community through your tax-deductible contributions that you can make by clicking that button right online. So, the 2018 theme of Centers for Spiritual Living is 100 Years of Science of Mind. And September's theme is Spiritual Mind Treatment, the Feeling. And our topic today is treatment and feeling. Love the curtain. So, as we know, treatment deals with thoughts. And when someone is giving a spiritual mind treatment, they are working with their own consciousness. They're really doing the prayer for themselves in relation to aligning themselves with the divine, in aligning themselves with the spiritual truths that always exist. The perfection of what is already accomplished in the mind of the divine. Already accomplished. It is and will always be perfect. So when one aligns themselves with the thought that there is a perfect idea back of everything that exists, the more effective the spiritual mind treatment will be. Because what we are doing in the treatment, here it is consciously announcing about the spiritual self and its relation to the universe, or its relation to the divine or to God. So I quote from Ernest Holmes, from The Science of Mind, our mental acceptances should be filled with conviction, warmth, where am I? Thank you. Color and imagination. The creative power responds to feeling more quickly than to any other attitude. Therefore, we should try to feel the reality of what we are doing when we give a treatment. This reality is felt as we become more and more convinced that spirit responds to us. So, I feel the reason this quote is so important is because we, as the prayer, are accepting all that God is. We are aligning our thoughts and consciousness with all that God is and the truths that are about this loving energy. You following me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So you see, the purpose of the spiritual mind treatment is to change circumstances, and how we do that is by going through a process of steps, following the steps that get us to a place where we can feel that the treatment has worked, that the circumstances have changed. Have you ever heard of this statement, when we believe it, we can feel it? Yeah, no? So again, as I align myself and my consciousness with all that the divine is, okay, and when I believe that in my praying, that's when I can feel it. And that is why the feelings associated with the treatment are so, so important. Now, I've said many times in the past that the power behind a spiritual mind treatment is really not the words. It really isn't. It's the feeling of the person giving the treatment. It really is the feeling, that burning in your belly, so to speak. The more that the person believes what they are saying, the more they believe that in the prayer, the more they'll feel it. They'll actually feel this. And the feeling naturally comes. Naturally comes. It's that strong, convicted feeling that I feel is the thrust behind the spiritual mind treatment. The more convicted one is, the more all-knowing that one is, the more strong the feelings arise. They bubble up. The more powerful the treatment. So let's think of when we create a mental equivalent. And a mental equivalent is a picturing of what you desire. Now, you've heard in the past by both Rev G and myself that when you create that picture for yourself, it's so important that you picture yourself living that desire as if you already are experiencing it. To use your 5 senses in the picturing of the desire. Because the more you use your senses, those 5 senses in that desire, the more you're going to believe it, and the more you will feel that it is already manifested. This is where the power is behind all of the treatments on the human level. The conviction of our word, the feeling behind our words that we use in the treatment. You know, I think of the time you could say a treatment in a monotone. You know, go through the 5 steps. All right, the treatment's going to work. But if you get that feeling and that burning in your belly, so to speak, and you can say it out loud, you can say it and people can feel the conviction, you're going to feel it. And that spiritual mind treatment, man, is going to do great things. Great things. Because we are only the vessels of the divine coming through. And the divine, that energy is strong. That energy is vibrant. That energy is alive. And that's what we want to bring about. Those feelings. Those feelings. Okay? So here's another quote that I'd like to share from Love and the Law by Ernest Holmes. And it says, a treatment is the process of convincing yourself of the truth of what you say. It is nothing else. It is nothing else. When you are self-convicted, then you have set forth into mind the power that does everything. This is so, so true. It really is. When you convince yourself about the words that you are saying, of the words that you are using in the treatment, when that occurs, when you are so self-convicted, then you have set forth into mind the power that does everything. The power that does everything. It's not our power. It's the power of the divine. It's all God doing all the work. We're just the vessels. And I'm not minimizing our place in it. It's like treat and move your feet. Okay? So, the straightening out of our thoughts, really, it's a technique. And this technique or techniques that can be used, what do they deal with? Your thoughts, as I've said before. They can be taken apart, they can be analyzed, they can be put back together. All of the different thoughts and the words and the phrases, all of which are understandable, teachable, and learnable. Now, the people who are doing a lot of spiritual mind treatments, would you agree? Would you agree with this?
Yeah.
It's so, so true. And our spiritual practices that we study about and learn here at the center, and then that we use in our lives, all deal with all of our different thoughts and ideas and beliefs and feelings. You know, the many, many spiritual practices deal with, bottom line, what does it deal with? All of the practices that you do. What do they deal with? Bottom line. So one word answer. Anybody know? What? Thank you. It's consciousness. It's consciousness. So when we pray, when we visualize, when we meditate, when we journal, when we vision, just to mention a few, these techniques, these spiritual practices deal with thought, and the straightening out of the thoughts that are not in alignment with the divine, and strengthening all of the thoughts that are in alignment with the divine. And when we realign ourselves with the truth of ourselves in relation to the divine and all of the nature. So, as we root ourselves in this truth, rooting ourselves in this truth, the prayer, the person doing the prayer, when we align ourselves with the truth, the more we believe what we say, the more and more we believe all that exists is the divine, that spirit does the work, and that spirit is all that there is, and is always working for each and every one's highest and best good. This is when one experiences, right here on earth, heaven. This is when you experience heaven. You don't have to go anywhere to experience. It's right here in your consciousness. Now, the flip side of that, you can experience hell. It's in your consciousness. These are not places, people. It's states of consciousness. Okay? So when we are knowing all of the truths about the divine, this is when one experiences the bliss of life, the magnificence, and the magic of all that life has to offer. Because we know here that life is all backed by one power, by one vibration, the power of good, the power of spirit. As I stated the other week, the importance and the necessity of our weeding our garden and the garden being our thoughts is because we all of us want to harvest. All of us want to cultivate and nurture all of the seedlings of thought that bring us to experience all the good that is ours to receive and have. And that's because of who and whose we are, people. So in a treatment, the person giving it, let's say it is a practitioner, as Liza mentioned earlier, recognizes the whole condition as a thing of thought. The whole condition as a thing of thought. As a thing of thought in her or hers mind, right? And they straighten out the thoughts about the person they're doing the prayer for. They're doing the prayer for. And by doing this, they are revealing the truth back of every appearance. Positive appearances as well as negative appearances. They reveal the spiritual truth behind all. So remember, a treatment has really no power unless it has meaning to the one who gives it. Really. Let's think about, as you said, that public speaker. They couldn't positively convey the best message unless they understood it, unless they believed it, unless they have feelings about what they want to convey. So the more that the speaker can believe it and understand it and feel about whatever message it is, the more powerful that message becomes to the audience. Now, there are public speakers in here right now. Do you agree with that? Like, how can you sell something, so to speak, if you're not believing in the product that you're selling? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So, it brings me back to when I was teaching in public school. I delivered a message to my students, whatever grade I taught, that they could achieve anything they wanted to achieve, that they had the power within themselves to conquer any challenge that might come their way. I truly believed this about the students in front of me, and I conveyed this to each and every one of them. And I can stand here fully knowing that the students that went through my classroom, being lifted by the words that I shared with them, they reached such height during that year. During that school year, they reached such height because the words uplifted, but the words that were spoken were truly believed by the person speaking those words myself. You know, that's so important. That's so important to really show up authentically in the words that you say. Okay, we talk about authenticity, but I won't go into that direction. Okay, so this thinking, you know, really applies to anyone in any situation. If one believes in themselves, believes in what they are saying or doing, one then can feel it from their bones, and thus bringing about whatever they believe. So believing it leads to feeling it, which leads to manifesting it. I love that. Believing it leads to feeling it, leads to manifesting it. So I'd like to end my part of the talk with the following quote from the Science of Mind original text. The more completely the practitioner is convinced of his own word, the more power his word will have. There must be a complete realization that the power of the word, operating as the truth and the reality of being, can do all things. So it is.
So it is.
Thank you, Rivet.
No, well,
Awesome message this morning. So now it's my turn. And so I always like to do experientials whenever possible. Right? And we all love it when we do experientials, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Because I think we get a lot out of that. So what I want to do today is I want to let us get a sense of what I'm talking about, or what we're talking about today, about feeling the treatment. Okay? So I think what I want to start with today, because it's always good to review so that we know where we are in this, you know. So I always like to go through and talk about the steps of treatment, because we have a 5-step prayer. And this is what we use. This is our affirmative prayer. And this is done by everyone, not just practitioners. We've heard practitioners, but if you're actually practicing this, you are a practitioner of science of mind. There are some who choose to be licensed, and there are some who choose to just live this, but that's what it's about. So that's what you're doing. So the steps of treatment start with recognition. What is recognition?
Recognizing someone's source.
Yeah, and all that God is, right? Or what we call God, or the universe, or whatever word we use for it, or the scientific principle. Because that's the beauty of the science of mind. We don't have to call it one thing. It's the infinite intelligence that is back of everything. And it's all that it is. Joy, peace, perfection, wholeness, light, love, all those things, right?
Yes.
All right. Then the next step is unification. What are we doing here?
Bringing ourselves together with the universe.
Right. We're unifying with the fact that all that the divine is, me too. Right? I'm all that. Like we do in the song, right? I'm all that. You know, when we do our rap. So, you know, it's like, so recognition, unification. So, divine is love, I am love. Okay? Then we go on to the realization. What are we doing here? We're asking for what we desire, right? This is where I am making my mind clear. This is an important step because it's changing the condition that I'm trying to change. This is where I'm doing the work. The last thing, and then after that, we do the thanksgiving. We give thanks as though it has already happened. Exactly. So it's as though it's already happened. You know, because we know that it's already done, because we've done the work. Consciously, we've done the work. The last thing is the release. And what are we doing here? We're letting go. Letting go and knowing we don't need to hang on to it anymore. You know, getting out of the way. Yeah. Let go, let God. We've heard all these kinds of things, you know. So it's that idea of releasing. So which step do you think we'd have our feeling in? The biggest feeling. Where are we going to have it?
Realization.
Right. In the realization, right? Because the feelings are going to bring forward the energy that we want to experience. So those are the steps of treatment. And so now let's go into this idea that I want to do now, because this is the real fun part, all right? So you guys ready to experience the feeling in treatment?
Yes.
Are we ready for that?
We're ready.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so what we're going to start with is we're going to start with positions of the body, okay? And I'll tell you what we're going to do as we go along. So the first one is I'm full of positive energy. This is going to be our first affirmation, our first claim, or our desire for the universe. What I want everyone to do is I want you to just completely relax in your chair. If your head falls down, whatever, let your arms fall down, just really slothfully. Really down there, just really down. Now, in that position, I want you to say this affirmation at the feeling of where your body is right now. Very heavy, very down. Say it. I am full of positive energy. Doesn't sound like it to me, right? So you see that feeling. How did that feel? Did you feel like you were being a little phony? Right? You were not being authentic? All right, so let's sit up in the chair. Let's kind of like put our shoulders back comfortably and just really put your feet flat on the floor. All right? Okay, and now let's say that again. I am full of positive energy. Better, right? Did you feel something that time around? It was a better feeling, wasn't it? Wasn't it? All right, so now's the big one. You ready for this one? This is my favorite part. Okay, so this time when we say it, we are going to jump up to our feet and put our hands in the air. So it's going to be, I am full of energy. All right? You ready? Make sure you got room. Don't make sure nobody gets hit with somebody's arms go flying in the air. All right, so here we go. Ready? All right, jump to your feet and I am full of positive energy. How does that feel?
Yes.
Yes. All right, you can go ahead and sit down. What a difference, right? Did you feel like you really shifted to a new level when you did that?
Yes.
You felt like your consciousness shifted, didn't it? Now, of course, I'm not saying that when we do treatment that we're going to jump to our feet, but you know what?
Unless we do.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah, that's right.
If I'm alone, I mean, it might not be so great in public. I don't know about that. You know, it's like I'm doing a quiet one to myself. But it could be interesting, yes. So, but you see the difference. You see that feeling. How powerful that is. Okay? All right, so now we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to do another one. We're going to do a different one. And this is going to be sort of a reverse of what we just did. So the next one that we're going to do is I am filled with peace. All right? So now for this one, we're going to do it a little differently in that we're actually going to start by, let's stand up. Let's stand up, okay? And I want you to imagine what we just did, the jumping to your feet and stretching your arms out, and I want you to say, I am filled with peace, okay? Ready? I am filled with peace. Okay? Doesn't feel real peaceful, does it? No, all right. So let's sit down in the chairs now, all right? And now we're going to sit up nice and straight with our shoulders back, feeling your feet on the floor. Now say this one more time. I am filled with peace. Did that feel authentic? Did it feel like you were there? So you see, we can use this feeling in different ways, can't we? All right, so now the last one we're going to do is we're going to do that slothful one. So let's just let ourselves hang down, whatever it is, and I want you to just think about, I am filled with peace. So say it with me. I am filled with peace. Didn't feel very peaceful to me. Felt like you can go to sleep. All right, so let's sit back up. So, was that amazing? Did you feel something different? Do you see what we're talking about? What Rev Ed is sharing with us is that we have an amazing power, and we can use this power. We can use this power to fill ourselves up with the energy that we need to carry us through our treatment, right? Because sometimes you are feeling a little slothful, and you want to do a treatment for energy. Or sometimes you are feeling a little over-energized and you want to get into a little place of peace. So now you see how you can easily take all these pieces and put them together and create what you're trying to create through your treatment. Did that help you? Did you find that that was really useful for you to really get how we get to the feeling and how important the feeling is? Because you can see, did you feel a shift in your consciousness when we jumped to our feet and threw our hands in the air and said, I am filled with positive energy? So there was, and that's what it's about. When we can shift our consciousness, we're shifting to that next place, to that next energy. So the last thing I want to share here is from Thich Nhat Hanh in his book, The Energy of Prayer. If there is a change in the individual consciousness, then a change in the collective consciousness will also take place. The one mind. You know, we hear us talk about that here, the one mind. That's the same idea, the collective consciousness, the one mind. All right? And then he goes on to say, then there is a change in the when there is a change in the collective consciousness, then the situation of the individual can change. Has anybody, we've experienced that, haven't we?
Yes.
Many of us have experienced that in our lives where you've felt that shift. You know, sometimes we have to do the treatment a couple of times to get it to really shift. But when we get there, you feel it, and you know it, and it happens. And that's what it's about. So then he goes on to say that the situation of our loved ones, the loved one who is the object of our prayer, can change. So it not only when we shift our consciousness do we shift the consciousness of the collective consciousness, but in doing so, we're changing the consciousness of the universal mind. So we're shifting beyond what it is. So that's the important things to remember, is that that's what we are doing here. That's the important thing. So something I just want to share briefly is that this weekend has been very emotional for me. You know, as I sat and I watched McCain's funeral services, I watched the funeral service for Aretha Franklin, both people who stood for service and love and caring for others and really having a sense of really being in service to the world, you know, which is what we're here for. Really and honestly, I believe that. So I realized that my feelings that were coming up were because I was starting to believe in a world that was divisive and separated and afraid and all of the things that are the antithesis of what we talk about here all the time. Love, inclusivity, kindness, caring for others. And I felt as though that had died, but I realized as I went through the day that no, it woke up. It woke up. The world is waking up. And we are waking up. And we are the consciousness. And our feelings, when we get ourselves into that place of starting to buy what the world's telling us, we have to watch our feelings. We have to work with our feelings and say, okay, wait a minute. What are the feelings I want to experience? And that's where we need to go. We don't want to send the energy back into the universe that we don't want to receive back. Do you agree? So it's all about being in a place of service, kindness, love, peace, caring. And that's what we're about here. So this week, I'm going to ask you to join me in really feeling your prayer. So I want you to try using this experiential, the most powerful one for you. So if it was the one jumping up and throwing your arms in the air to say you're full of positive energy, try that and see where it fits in maybe a prayer that you're doing this week. Can you do that?
Yes.
And then what I want us all to do is I want us to check back with each other on that. Okay? Next week, let's come in and talk to each other about, oh my gosh, it was so cool. I did this, and I actually did the arms in the air, and I really had the manifestation. You want to do that with me?
Yes.
All right, let's do that. Namaste.
Namaste.
And so if you'll just join with me in our spiritual mind treatment, which of course course, we know is our form of prayer. So just settle into your chair, quieting the mind. And just focus on something you want to experience in your life right now. If it's wellness, health, joy, peace, whatever it is, just kind of focus on that. Bring it up in your mind. Clarity, guidance, no matter what it is. And now let that go. And join with me in this prayer. So the purpose of this prayer is for the feeling of the desire that was just held by each one is fully and completely manifest in each life. So I recognize and I realize that there is one infinite universal source, substance, creative energy, one scientific principle, one quantum possibility field, one law of attraction that is absolutely all that there is. It is awake and aware and alive in all of life. All that is seen and unseen is absolutely imbued with the energy and the light and the love and the joy and the peace and the clarity and the guidance and all of the divine good. All of this is right there in that one space, in that one place that is everywhere present. And as I recognize that this is the source, and this is the substance, and this is the creative energy of the universe, I realize and I recognize that I am one with it. I cannot be anything else, for it is everywhere present, therefore it is in every cell of my being. All that I am, the divine is. All that the universe is, I am. And as I know this about myself, I know this about each and every one in this room. And I further know this about all throughout the cosmos as I inclusively include all in this treatment. Knowing that all are one with the one. Even those who are not aware of that oneness, there is a oneness. And there is an awakening that is going on. And in this awakening, I am calling forth from this oneness the absolute, perfect, whole, complete, wondrous manifestation of each desire that was held in mind for just a moment there. That this manifestation for each life here is coming to full fruition through the one mind into form right here and right now. I am claiming this. I am declaring this. I am knowing that this is already done in the one mind. For it was the one mind that brought the desire up. And it is the one mind that brings that into form. So I am just full of gratitude and thanksgiving. I am filled with joy, knowing that it is the Mother, Father, God's good pleasure to give the kingdom right here and right now. And it is done in this one mind now. So I can just let it go. I can release it. I can surrender it into the activity of the law where I know the law says, yes, of course, this is yours. And so I let this be and I let this unfold and I let this completely be in the mind of the divine and I can let go. And I surrender into the trust of knowing that it is done. I can say, make it so, number one, and know that it is done. And so I bless this activity with gratitude and thanksgiving as I simply say, blessed be, amen, ashe, alleluia. And together we say, and so it is. So let's join together in our affirmation for this week, which is provided for us by our beloved Dr. Nan Hutton. So the affirmation is, I know and feel in every fiber of my being that there is perfect harmony in and through all appearances and experiences. Oof. Love that. Want to do it again? Yes. All right. I know and feel in every fiber of my being that there is perfect harmony in and through all appearances and experiences. Yes!
So it is.
And if you want to see that, it'll be online tomorrow at 9 a.m. on our Facebook page. So,
Yes.
all right, thank you. And we say goodbye to our Facebook family.